Hello, my friend. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time in the broadcast, if you've never seen me live before, good morning. I hope you'll grab a cup of coffee or a juice or something, maybe pull up a chair, snuggle in more if you're watching this while you're laying in bed. Or maybe you're off somewhere doing something in the middle of the afternoon and happen to just scroll through and catch my broadcast. In any event, thank you so much. I hope you'll let me bless you this morning with some stories. I hope you'll enjoy some coffee with me. Today's coffee mug of the day says "Be Golden" on it. Be golden. And it's a golden mug. I love how beautiful this mug is. It's so shiny. But I have an extensive coffee cup collection. It's just a little something that I've had over the years. I love getting coffee mugs or Christmas ornaments whenever I'm looking for souvenirs, because this is how I remember people and places and organizations like this one that I've met along this beautiful journey of my life. And I love all their stories. And so when I see these mugs and I enjoy a nice cup of coffee, I think about the story behind these people and what they're doing, and it inspires me. And it makes me think of them, say a little prayer for them, right? Well, in any event, if this is your first time to catch me, thank you so much for being here. My name is Ronee, and I am an editor by trade. I love to help people craft and share their stories. I love to have them, develop their content. I love coaching them along as they're writing their stories. And I love when my authors, my writers, my writerly colleagues get their work published out there in the world for other people to enjoy and see and be blessed by. So that's what I do. But on Saturday mornings, I do this little live broadcast called From the Editor's Desk, where I talk about some great stories that have inspired me during the week, some funny stories, some really crazy, weird stories. I'm sure you had some happen to you this week, right? So wherever you're joining, if you're joining on the live broadcast, definitely pop in and say hello. I love seeing where everyone is watching from. If you're watching this via replay, do the same thing. I just appreciate you taking the time with me today. So, this organization is called Be Golden. And of course, as you can imagine, their motto, their story is about kindness, about how we can be golden in our world and share more kindness, help others. And that's what I'm focusing on this week is stories that help other people. You know, we love reading books. We love reading a good story. I'm surrounded by books, as you can see in my office. And some books that I have are insightful, right? And they help us learn about things. This author, Cal Newport in particular, works on the topic of digital minimalism and how we can best structure our time to do deep work, not only in ourselves, but if we run a business, if we're an entrepreneur, if we're working from home, if we are working a job, we want to be the best at that. So these kind of books really inspire us and are very insightful. Then there are stories, personal stories, um, funny stories. This is Who Do I Think I Am by Angela Johnson Reyes. She's a comedian, but she also shares her story about how she came up from being a girl that grew up in, where did she grow up? Let's see. I think in the Los Angeles area. Anyway, she had a YouTube video that went viral, and she's been on Mad TV. She's been done stand up, and so, but she talks about her life as a dedicated, woman of God, and yet coming up through the comedy ranks in Hollywood and in Los Angeles and on social media. And so we get to be entertained, we get to laugh, we get to be inspired by Angela. And so that's her book. Or you might like a good murder mystery, and you might want to pick up a copy of All the Queen's Men. This is the second installment in the series by S.J. Bennett. That is Her Majesty the Queen Investigates. And so this is a series written putting the Queen of England, even though she's sat on the throne all these years, all these 70 years, she's actually been solving crimes. So this kind of book is really entertaining, right? But I'm talking today about stories that help other people. Stories that when you read them, you're inspired to either do something in your community, or you're reading the story about this person who took something in their life and a moment in time, an event, something they were doing, and it sparked something in them, inspired them to do something for other people. In the intro video that you were watching as I came on live here, this shared the story of Tom's, the shoe company, Tom's. And the owner, when he was traveling through Argentina in 2006, he just on a trip, right? We travel. And when he was there, he noticed how many children, how many people were going without shoes. And that just kind of hung with him, and he couldn't get past that. So what he did is when he came home, he created a for-profit company known as Tom's. You know the shoe brand? I own a couple of pair of Tom's, right? And how satisfying to know that with each pair of shoes that are sold, so when I buy a pair of shoes, there's a pair of shoes going to someone in a country that does not have them. The company sends shoes. So for every pair of shoes that they sell, a pair of shoes go to a deserving child or a person who needs them. So stories that inspire and stories that change our community. That's what I'm talking about this week. And so one book I would love to recommend to you. I did this during Mother's Day weekend. I had a client who just recently released her book. She's not a nonprofit organization leader by any stretch of the words, but she launched her very first book, and it's called Half-Baked Love: Navigating the Messy Middle of Divorce. She wrote this book after she discovered that when she was 4 weeks from delivering her daughter, she discovered that her husband had been having an affair the entire time of their marriage, which had only been a little over a year. This, caused Veronica to become a single mother with a newborn all by herself. And so she shares her story of how going through this process, what it felt like, what it was, like for her to have to do this, to shift between, do I get a divorce? Do I not get a divorce? Do I try to make my marriage work? What she discovered when she approached me about the story is that she said, there's all kind of books about what to do if you want to file for divorce. And there's all kinds of books and things to do about what to do after the divorce. She said, but I didn't find a lot of books that dealt with the middle, with the emotions and everything you go through while you're trying to make those decisions and be a brand new mom. It's one thing when you have children that are a little bit grown and you're going through a divorce, right? It still is traumatic. But she was 4 weeks away from giving birth and having to go through this ordeal. So she shares her story in the hopes that other women who may be going through this experience can benefit from what she did, the work that she put in, and how it drew her closer to her relationship with God, caused her to get some spiritual grounding pegs really set in her life. And by doing so, she was able to pull herself up out of this. And so she shares that in her story. So at the end of this broadcast, I'm going to be sharing all the links in the notes and also on all the social media platforms where you can get a copy of her book, Veronica Colon, debut author. We launched her book and we celebrated on the 15th. Had a wonderful, wonderful time just getting to watch that whole process unfold for her. And you can do that too. You can do that too. So another book that came back in March, and you saw a little bit about it in the intro video if you were watching and paying attention. But this book was written by Gary White and Matt Damon, and it's called The Worth of Water. This story was written because, when you get up in the morning, do you ever think about when you get up in the morning and you stumble in the bathroom and you use the restroom, you flush the toilet, and you look at your eyes and your hair, then you start washing your face, you start brushing your teeth, and all of those things that you do, including going to the coffee maker and making your cup of coffee in the morning. All of those things, and where that water, if the water was off in my house, what would happen? I couldn't do any of those things. In fact, yesterday, had a water leak. I came home from lunch yesterday and, look, our handyman that was helping us, look, there's water coming down the light fixture in the kitchen from the ceiling. It's like, what? We didn't know if it was the air conditioner. We didn't know if it was, but we did discover yesterday after the emergency plumber came, which he only charged us $59. Bless them, Lord. Flow Plumbing here in Dallas. Fantastic for an emergency call on a Friday. But they came out and I discovered we have a water heater going out on this side of the house, and it provides the hot water to our guest bedrooms and our kitchen. So we have water in the kitchen. We don't have hot water in the kitchen. Just a momentary light affliction, no big deal. But what Matt Damon and his partner are talking about is, offering solutions to a huge problem, that while we can make coffee and take a shower and wash our face and wash the dishes and do everything over here, there are 750 million people, 750 million, right? That's 750 million people on this planet have no clean water source near their home. We're not just talking a faucet to turn on where there's water, but a clean water source. 1.7 billion don't have access to a toilet. And this crisis affects a third of the people on the planet. It keeps kids out of school and women out of work. It traps people in extreme poverty and disease. Imagine. So this is what prompted Matt Damon and Gary White to come up with a solution. They were convicted in knowing this and discovering this, and this is what brought them together. Gary White is a water expert and an engineer. Of course, Matt Damon brings with him his, economic power from being a major actor in Hollywood. So they spent years together working on this, failing at it and succeeding in some things and failing again and succeeding in some things. And this is what their book is about. So the story is about their time spent with their organization, water.org, to find an approach that works. So they work with partners across East Africa, Latin America, South Asia, and Southeast Asia, helping over 40 million people access water and sanitation. So in this book, they tell their story. They tell their short story. They share their insights. They talk about the ideas they tried. They talk about the things that failed and how working with these communities, between working with the impoverished people and working in the halls of power in government in other countries, they were able to find some solution to getting water to these people. So again, if you think about it, these are stories that help change lives. These are stories that help change lives. And I am very honored and privileged to share with you an interview that I did this week with my friend, Carol Harris. She leads a nonprofit organization in the Nashville area. I was so excited to be able to go back and assist her with her Mother's Day project that benefits the Nashville Rescue Mission women, the women of the Nashville Rescue Mission. And so she holds this special event every year. But it all started with a story, with a simple story. So I am so excited to share with you the interview with my friend, Carol Harris. Is a very busy nonprofit organization leader. And because she has a full schedule, she was not free to join us live on the broadcast this morning. However, we spent some time today and I was able to record her and have her join us that way to share her story and learn more about how she's changing the community in the Nashville area just by a simple act based upon a story in her own life. So I'm more than happy and cannot wait to join my friend into the stream. So welcome with us, Carol. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Good day to everyone.
Yeah. So Carol and I have been friends for, gosh, how long has it been, Carol? 25 years now?
About that.
At least. Carol and I know each other from attending church. We stood in the choir together. Our boys grew up together. Our kids grew up together, and our families became sort of blended families. We did life together for many years. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you today, Carol, is because you have a very interesting story, one that I was honored to get to watch unfold. Something that you've done that I now got to celebrate with you this past couple of weekends, over Mother's Day weekend. Hello, Milo. And Milo decides, of course, to join the broadcast right as we start. But we're going to flash back a few years.
Sure.
And I want you to share the story because you and I sort of had a camaraderie in a different way. Hi, Milo. Thanks for joining the broadcast. But you and I both have lost a loved one in our life. So I wanted to share a little bit about that story because that story also sparked something in you to change life for many people in the Nashville area. So I want you just to share with me real briefly and for the viewers today your story about what happened in Mother's Day weekend 12 years ago.
Yes. My name is Carol Harris, and May the 11th, 2009 was a Monday. And so that weekend, that Sunday was, of course, Mother's Day. And so we went out to dinner, my family, my husband, and my sons, and do what we normally do on Mother's Day. And Of course, I went to bed that night, not knowing what the next day would provide for me. But I'm thankful for the grace of God that was there with me, even though I didn't even know what I was about to embark upon.
Right.
Um, so I woke up that morning with my husband with a kiss on the cheek and told me to sleep. Don't worry about it. I've got my coffee. I'm out the door. And that was basically the last time I saw him face to face. So when I received the news and when I got to work, um, my life kind of pivoted without my permission. But that had really caused the life of my son, my family, his sister, everyone, my brother, everybody, into an emotional tailspin, which we weren't ever. You never ever planned for that. So once I went through the journey of that year, and and I would say with any person that has gone through grief, I'll share this briefly, that you're in a fog of sorts where you're not sure, you're navigating, you're doing normal things, but there's just that feeling that life is different. And so moving forward through that following year, 2010, I had been serving the homeless with a friend of mine who thought it would be great after she spoke to the homeless women at the Nashville Rescue Mission to give them a bag of goodies, a nice gift bag. So I have been helping her probably a year or two, maybe three, just putting those together. And then her emphasis of for her nonprofit changed, and she went international. And then I felt the Spirit of the Lord tell me that this is what I want you to do, to go to the next level with it. And I was hesitant, but I felt it was God doing it. And so I said, yes, Lord, I do it. And from there, 2010, the Mother's Day project is evolved
and continues to grow.
And continues to grow. And it's only by the grace of God, through volunteers and donors who give from the depths of their heart, that it makes it a blessing. Because when I bring all the donations to my home and I cannot get in my living room, then I feel that I have achieved the goal to be a blessing to these women with all our personal care goods. We give them bath and body products, hair products. We give them flip flops to wear in the shower. We give them magazines to read, things that's going to try to evoke value for them for that one day.
Right. Right.
And if you have never been to any of your local homeless shelters for families or children or wherever, it is an amazing moment how the staff helps these precious men and women and children to just adapt for the temporary circumstance that they're in.
Right. Right. So, so for viewers here, I'm going to back up just a little bit. So, the next day after you kissed James goodbye and taken off on your day, James had gone to our church to join with the men's group that was there, and
Right.
he were playing basketball, right? Just
yes.
a simple basketball game and everything.
Right.
And James unexpectedly suffered a massive heart attack.
Yes.
And I remember when it happened, I remember getting a frantic call from William, who was in California at the time, because William's a professional dancer. He's, danced at the Super Bowl. He's danced on the Oscar stage. He's danced. So he was in Los Angeles living and working at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
remember him calling me frantically, Mama Rene, I need you to, I need you to get a message to my mom at work, because I'm having to get someone to pick up Kyle. And, but I trying to desperately get a hold of her.
Right.
And that's how I found out what happened. It happened so quickly. Um,
Yeah.
and then the next thing I knew is I was walking with you into the um, emergency room to say goodbye to James. And I don't know. I mean, that just started. I after 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 losing James, as far as my family, my kids lost another dad. They looked to James as if he was their second dad, and then the following year I would lose my grandmother, and then in 2013 I lost my own husband, and you were right there at the front door to tell me, all right, we're gonna walk through this. So we never realized how much life would pivot for us and
Mm-hmm.
completely change our circumstances. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of what you're doing for the homeless community in Nashville, because
Mm-hmm.
these people have suffered pivots in their own lives that have
Right.
somehow put them on the street. And I found some data that I wanted to share with everyone while we're watching the stream here. This is some information that comes from a national organization that keeps track of, or tries to keep track of, numbers and data. And I found this really interesting. So this data, the 2021 State of Homelessness Report, but this data was collected up until February of 2020. So these numbers are before the pandemic hit, just to give folks, a little bit of reality of where we stand in our country. But it says there was a 30% increase in unsheltered homeless. Now that's just individuals, and of that total
Right.
number, then 30% of that number are families with children, like entire families with children.
Right.
209,000 individuals not living in families with children were unsheltered in 2020. Of that, 209,000, say 30% of that is, maybe 40,000 people, say, that are
Mm-hmm.
that are families with children. And so I remember when you started doing this Mother's Day project, the thing that struck you the most was when we would go help them or we would see them, and you especially noticed how these children were carrying their belongings in a trash bag. And you just said, that's not right. No one deserves to have to carry their possessions in a trash bag. And so you wanted to do something that sort of lifted them up and like you said, give them value, make them feel special. So
Yeah.
the Nashville Rescue Mission, for folks that are watching, so the Nashville Rescue Mission does an event at the mission for the women of the shelter. They do like a Mother's Day lunch. They put out, they do food for them. The room is decorated nicely.
Beautiful.
And so Carol gets these bags together, these lovely gift bags. So if any of you have been shopping in like TJ Maxx or stores like that, and the really nice colorful shopping bags that you get like to put your things in when you check out, well, Carol gathers those kind of bags, and then she also, through, like she said, all the generous donations of people, the monetary donors who also supply those resources for Carol to purchase items that she needs that she may not be able to gather from people, but they're personal care products, things that women need, feminine care products,
Right.
things that are more personal to them, because most homeless shelters, people will donate socks, or they'll donate shoes or things like that everybody needs. But the women need to have these personal items because it's a hygiene and a health thing. And so
Right.
Carol puts all those things together. She puts these nice things in these bags. And so when these women show up, not only do they get a wonderful meal, but then they get a personalized bag with things that are just for them. And that
That's what.
makes such a difference, I think. I know I've been blessed to actually attend the luncheon with you one year, a couple of years actually, and how thankful these women are. Gosh, Milo just will not stop. He's got to be in the broadcast. Okay, and and so, you know, just the overwhelm they feel, the emotion that they feel, that somebody cares enough just to give them a little something to help them feel so much better, and maybe take their mind for even a moment
Yes,
off
just for
of their
one day.
yeah, off of their temporary circumstances.
Mhm.
Um, and so, you know, your story inspired you to do something to help your own community, and I think that's what's so amazing. And what I wanted to encourage people with your story is that, you know, where people feel like, well, what can I do, or I don't know what I can do, or, you know, I'm not, you know, I never planned to do anything on this level. Well, I know you didn't, but just your obedience to God's prompting of, if you will just take care of this group, if you
Yeah.
would just take care of this group for me, then I will bless them through you mightily. Um, our
Yes.
numbers this year, Carol, did we have an increase in numbers from last year of the people that we served?
Yes, and I was really taken back by when my call to the director there that the numbers had gone up, and for us that's a blessing, but for me to hear that, I was like,
Right,
oh, that's there's more women, because we normally would do like 175 bags.
right,
But this year we went up to she said 200 and something. So we got 209, and we probably could have done more. Um, but that was kind of a short notice for me, and I went like, oh my goodness,
right,
this is hard bit of news to hear, because I would have planned a little bit more to help, because we always try to give them a little extra for that woman that comes in after the Mother's Day project,
right, right,
delivery day, and because women come in all during the night. And so it was a sad notification to hear that the numbers had gone up. But no, we did our best, and we have volunteers,
oh,
owners. This year we had a group from Lighthouse Christian School, their
yes,
junior and senior students. This was their service project, and we reestablished our relationship with them. They had helped us in the past, and I was just elated to have the students with it. So I'm really like casting a vision, Ronnie. But God sees that. He says, there's somebody in this group that sees what you're doing, and one day they could step in and take, and do whatever God has called them to do for the homeless, because Jesus said that the poor would be with us always.
right, right,
And I know whatever city your viewers are in, I'm inviting them, I'm imploring them to look right there at the woman on the street. If nothing more, if you're not able to give them a bag, give them a cold bottle of water.
right,
Uh, give them, you know, a snack or something that day, because we never know that any of
right,
us are 2 months and a paycheck away from homelessness. And because of the complexity of gentrification in our major cities, it
right,
is changing across the board. There's not any one group of persons or nationalities that this is not, homelessness is not touching. And it's
right,
very, very, very alarming to me. Even in Nashville, we are struggling again with our homeless community, where one time I was applauding all the
right.
homeless nonprofits that were out there. And it's a big struggle. And it is something that we have to pray about, and, put our hands to the plow to it, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So here's when you were talking about the numbers, here's another stat that I found that I wanted to show.
Mm-hmm.
So the national level counts for overall homeless. You see that on the left side of this graphic here, that there were 647,258 homeless. This was 2007. You know, this is right around the dot-com bust of 2008 when all of that happened. And you notice we've had, on average, there's a decline in the numbers, but now we've picked back up to where in 2020, I believe, or no, 2000, let's see, 19 is the data that we're back up at 580,466, and that was in 2019. So we can only imagine the numbers that are going to come from the data after the pandemic, because with the pandemic, so many people, businesses closed, people were unemployed, families that were displaced because of things that happened. And so when we look at these numbers and realize that they have increased, yes, the jump in numbers we had this year for the Mother's Day Project, while you said, you know, we're grateful that we can bless them like that, we never want to hear that the numbers increase. We never want to hear that there's more added to the rolls. And yet we also trust that God is going to provide for us the resources that we need to be able to help these people. Because like you said, a lot of these families are in a temporary situation. It might be a bag or a meal or something that these nonprofit organizations that are working so hard to try to help people in their communities. Like you said, all of us, I know here in Dallas, we have an organization called the Genesis Women's Shelter, which takes care of just the women, because there are other shelters that take care of predominantly the men.
Right.
But the fact that these numbers are increasing here in our nation, and we're probably going to see that more and more as the ripple effect of the pandemic, you know, continues to go out.
Right. And even with the worldview, what's going on with refugees, when the refugees come in and they find themselves not be able to acclimate or out of fear, but there are great groups that help them as well. But you all these things are the numbers, and I just urge people in their own communities. You don't have to do as I do, or model it, but please help the homeless.
Well, and Carol, what I love about your story is that you just, out of something that you did, you were serving anyway. And this became, you know, a torch that you picked up, that you have been doing for the past 12 years so faithfully to help these women. And we never know, like you said, the difference we can make in just a kind gesture or doing something. God doesn't need a lot. He just needs a mustard seed of faith for us to act on.
Right.
Right. And then once we do that, like you said, we'll be surrounded with resources and people, and paths will be cleared and connections will be made for us to help those who are hurting so badly. I mean, some of these people from the Ukraine that are leaving, they barely escaped with their lives. They've been having to flee and be in hiding. I know with an author that I'm working with, he is the past president of a global orphan care ministry, and they were, you know, seriously affected by the war in Ukraine, because some of these children were special needs and couldn't even be moved without an ambulance. So you can imagine, you know, the challenges that they faced. And yet when we are able to meet them, even the smallest thing that we can do can make such a huge difference in someone's life. So I just wanted to share your story, Carol, because you're a perfect example of how just a personal story that was rooted in great loss and great tragedy, and yet you took that story and used it as the fuel to embark on a campaign that would eventually, for 12 years, and we keep going, is going to be blessing these people who find themselves.
That is my prayer.
Yeah. So so Carol, I'm excited. Where you were talking about, you were casting vision. Speak a little bit about A Woman's Journey and your vision and your goal for what you would like to see your nonprofit do.
Well, I'm thankful that God has given us this platform, but I always feel there's more. And I was saying, Lord, we've done this for 12 years. And I don't want to think that it's perfectly, it's got a bow on it. But I'm wanting Him to give me other opportunities to be a blessing to women and homeless women. To try to empower them to make them feel that they have worth. um, we struggle at our identity. This is the world we're in, and we have all things about our images. But if we don't foster some kind of positive influence on women who have been dejected for whatever the reason, and there are scores of nonprofits that help. Whatever He wants me to do for the least of them,
Right.
I want to be a blessing to it. And I'm just thankful for all the people that have been with me the 12 years, and just to think that every year they're calling me, what do you need? What do you need? And I'm so thankful that people keep it in mind, and that they want to be a part of what I always has been coining the phrase, the greatest packing party ever.
Oh man, so much fun. And I tell you, those kids this year were incredible. We had one young girl who, when it came time to load the truck, she said, I love Tetris. And we were like, great. You're
Yeah.
over supervising the rest of the kid. You get that
Yeah.
help get that truck organized and packed, right?
I,
I mean, yeah, she was ecstatic. And I mean, those kids were just ready to do whatever we needed them to do. And I think we had record.
yeah.
Absolutely. So here's when you were talking about the numbers, here's another stat that I found that I wanted to show. So the national level counts for overall homeless. You see that on the left side of this graphic here that there were 647,258 homeless. This was 2007. This is right around the dot-com bust of 2008 when all of that happened. And you notice we've had, on average, there's a decline in the numbers, but now we've picked back up to where in 2020, I believe, or no, 2000, let's see, 19 is the data that we're back up at 580,466, and that was in 2019. So we can only imagine the numbers that are going to come from the data after the pandemic, because with the pandemic, so many people, businesses closed, people were unemployed, families that were displaced because of things that happened. And so when we look at these numbers and realize that they have increased, yes, the jump in numbers we had this year for the Mother's Day Project, while you said, we're grateful that we can bless them like that, we never want to hear that the numbers increase. We never want to hear that there's more added to the rolls. And yet we also trust that God is going to provide for us the resources that we need to be able to help these people. Because like you said, a lot of these families are in a temporary situation. It might be a bag or a meal or something that these nonprofit organizations that are working so hard to try to help people in their communities. Like you said, all of us, I know here in Dallas, we have an organization called the Genesis Women's Shelter, which takes care of just the women, because there are other shelters that take care of predominantly the men.
Right.
But the fact that these numbers are increasing here in our nation, and we're probably going to see that more and more as the ripple effect of the pandemic, continues to go out.
Right. And even with the worldview, what's going on with refugees, when refugees come in and they find themselves not be able to acclimate or out of fear, but there are great groups that help them as well. But you all these things are the numbers, and I just urge people in their own communities. You don't have to do as I do, or model it, but please help the homeless.
Well, and Carol, what I love about your story is that you just, out of something that you did, you were serving anyway. And this became, a torch that you picked up, that you have been doing for the past 12 years so faithfully to help these women. And we never know, like you said, the difference we can make in just a kind gesture or doing something. God doesn't need a lot. He just needs a mustard seed of faith for us to act on.
Right.
Right. And then once we do that, like you said, we'll be surrounded with resources and people, and paths will be cleared and connections will be made for us to help those who are hurting so badly. I mean, some of these people from the Ukraine that are leaving, they barely escaped with their lives. They've been having to
Exactly.
flee and be in hiding. I know with an author that I'm working with, he is the past president of a global orphan care ministry,
Mhm.
and they were, seriously affected by the war in Ukraine because some of these children were special needs and couldn't even be moved without an ambulance. So you can
No, no.
imagine, the challenges that they faced, and yet when we are able to meet them, even the smallest thing that we can do can make such a huge difference in someone's life. So I just wanted to share your story, Carol, because you're a perfect example of how just a personal story that was rooted in great loss and great tragedy, and yet you took that story and used it as the fuel to embark on a campaign that would eventually, for 12 years, and we keep going, is going to be blessing these people who find themselves,
That is my prayer.
yeah. So so Carol, I'm excited. Where you were talking about, you were casting vision.
Mhm.
Um, Speak a little bit about a woman's journey and your vision and your goal for what you would like to see your nonprofit do.
Well, I'm thankful that God has given us this platform, but I always feel there's more. And I was saying, Lord, we've done this for 12 years, and I don't want to think that it's perfectly, it's got a bow on it, but I'm wanting Him to give me other opportunities to be a blessing to women and homeless women. To try to empower them to make them feel that they have worth. um, we struggle at our identity. This is the world we're in, and we have all things about our images. But if we don't foster some kind of positive influence on women who have been dejected for whatever the reason, and there are scores of nonprofits that help. Whatever He wants me to do for the least of them,
Right.
I want to be a blessing to it. And I'm just thankful for all the people that have been with me the 12 years, and just to think that every year they're calling me, what do you need? What do you need? And I'm so thankful that people keep it in mind, and that they want to be a part of what I always has been coining the phrase, the greatest packing party ever.
Oh man, so much fun. And I tell you, those kids this year were incredible. We had one young girl who, when it came time to load the truck, she said, "I love Tetris." And we were like, great. You're
Yeah.
over supervising the rest of the kid. You get that,
Yeah.
help get that truck organized and packed, right?
I,
I mean, yeah, she was ecstatic. And I mean, those kids were just ready to do whatever we needed them to do. And I think we had record time this year stuffing the bags because all
yes.
those kids were there to help. They formed little groups. Some of the girls were over like the section with all the hair items, and they were getting everything put together. Another couple of kids helped the woman that was overseeing all of the feminine hygiene products and getting all those
Yes.
organized and packed. Um, they were just so sweet. And when we explained to them what we were doing and how what they did was going to
Hmm.
impact someone, they just, they all were like, "Wow, that's really cool." And I was like, we just want to let you guys know that what you're
Yes.
doing is a huge help to us. Like, don't think that what you're doing here is small potatoes. So
Right.
I was just blown away by their engagement and their willingness to do
Right.
everything. And they got that truck loaded for you. I mean, we were provided the hands and the feet
Yes.
to move this
Thank you.
vision along. Yeah. God is just good like that. And so they're looking forward to helping us again next year. And
I'm so glad for the partnership. I'm really,
yeah.
yes. And they can
And
go to,
so
so
people who want to connect with you, and I'll be sharing links down here below in the comments of this broadcast of just how you can connect with Carol on her Mother's Day Project page, how you can send, message her if you would like to help support this organization. It's one of my close to my heart, definitely, because I've been able to see the fruit of what you've been doing, Carol, firsthand. And so it's just an honor for me to be able to walk alongside you and get to do this. I know the people of the Nashville Rescue Mission are incredibly blessed every year when you pull up in that big U-Haul and you've
yes,
got all of your bags ready to unload.
that's
Um,
right.
I know they're happy to receive those. Well,
They
Carol,
are.
listen, I just want to thank you for sharing your story, but more importantly, thank you for making your story into a reality that blesses so many people, because you turned a personal tragedy into something that will perpetuate such beauty and such grace to the women of Nashville. So, you
My pleasure.
know, I just think it's a great thing, and I can't wait to do it again with you next year.
Yes, and I'm wanting to invite anyone that hears this broadcast to share this, that to join us, to be a part of that. And as Renee is going to share the links, the information about a Woman's Journey Incorporated. That is the name of our nonprofit. And we don't know what God has in store. We just want to be available.
Right,
And so, however He wants that. If it is to give a person a bottle of water on as I'm driving by, they're on the corner, or to
right.
prepare these bags. So, um,
Yeah,
please join. And I thank you for the opportunity. I also wanted to say that out of this grief, um, which any person who is grieving at this time, that there's grief share. There are grieving groups for you so you can go forward. This was just a step for me to step out of something that I had the right to stay in
right.
here. But out of that, something beautiful for the Nashville Rescue Mission and homeless women and mothers and their children is made possible.
Right, right. Grief Share. Yes, I will be sharing the links to Grief Share. Grief Share is available across the United States. You
Yes.
can look into local chapters where you are and find out more about Grief Share. It's a wonderful organization that helps you
Yes.
process the grief of
Yes.
losing a loved one, losing a child, losing a spouse,
Right.
um, lost to family members through suicide, anything like that.
Hmm.
They surround you and give you the tools to help you walk through and process your grief. And in Carol's case, gave her a renewed sense of purpose of what she was going to do to help impact the lives of women in the Nashville area. So I just applaud you for that, Carol. Thank you so much for taking the time to
Thank
let
you, Ron.
me get your story and share it. And like I said, I'll be sharing the links. Oh, and Milo's saying goodbye to you now. Hi,
Thank you, Milo.
Milo. Come here. I'll be sharing links with everybody here on the broadcast so that you can join in and learn more about how to support Carol's nonprofit and how to join us next year for the Mother's Day Project. So, Carol, thanks so much for being
Thank you.
available for the broadcast. I'm
Appreciate
sure
it.
I'll be talking to you soon. All
All
right.
right. Save the date,
All right.
everyone.
All right.
Mother's Day
Yes.
weekend.
Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ron.
That is my beautiful friend, Carol, and the incredible work that she is doing through a woman's journey to help and bless the women of the Nashville Rescue Mission. Carol has great vision to not only just do that one event on Mother's Day, but hopefully do some other events throughout the year to help support those women and those children. And it all started with a story. It all started with a story. You have a story too. Maybe your story is not tragic. Maybe your story is like the Tom's co-founder or Matt Damon, or maybe you know some people that you want to partner with and help them because maybe they're doing something to help people in your local community. Or maybe you take a personal story of your own and let it inspire you to help others who may be going through a similar thing that you've been through. Whatever the case, we love good stories, and we love stories that help bless other people, because after all, when we share our stories, we never know the difference in the impact that they can make, not on our readers, but more importantly, our communities and perhaps the world. So, if you'd like to know more about that, I'll be posting some links. You can go right now on Facebook to the Mother's Day Project. You will find a page there for them. Carol's website is being created. We are working on getting an official website up and running. But when we do, the website link, and I'll share it for you, because we will be working on this over the summer. And but it is going to be all right, and here's going to be the link to the new website. It's going to be live soon. We're going to be working that, as I said, over the summer, but it's going to be A Woman's Journey TN, because this happens in Nashville, Tennessee, and that's where Carol is based. But it's a womansjourneytn.org. You can bookmark that link so that you can come back to it later and catch it when Carol's website goes live. You can find out more about let's see. You'll find a group, and you will also find a page on Facebook, and it is called the Mother's Day Project. So you can search on Facebook for the Mother's Day Project. You will find the page that has information about what we do and how the organization helps come together to bless the women of the Nashville Rescue Mission. More importantly, I wanted to tell you about some stories that we're reading in book club. We are excited because we are going through a book right now called The Personal Librarian, learning a little bit about the woman behind the creation and curation of all of the ancient texts, manuscripts, and things that are in the Morgan Pierpont Library. She was a personal assistant to J.P. Morgan at the turn of the century and helped create what we now have as the Morgan Pierpont Library. But coming up for the month of June, we've got some great books coming up. We are going to be discussing the Dictionary of Lost Words. This is a story rooted and based in the creation of the Oxford English Dictionary and the women who were instrumental in getting that published. For the month of July, we will be reading a fun summer rom-com called Book Lovers by Emily Henry. You may know her of the book from last year called The People We Meet on Vacation. Emily Henry is a great summer rom-com writer. She puts out some awesome stories, and so this is what we're going to be reading over the summer. And I would love for you to join us in our book club. We have a fantastic time. It is so much fun. And also, if you want to share your story and see maybe where your story will connect with others, you can do that right here on my website at ronahardin.com/contact. You can let me know if you would like to join the book club or find out more information about how you can maybe take your story to the next level, publish it, perhaps in a blog or an article, or you might even want to publish your own book, because you never know the difference that your story can make. So I hope you will share your story with me. I'd love to help share your story with the world. And more importantly, let's remember those stories that change us the most, the ones that pique our interest, the ones that help our heart, and more importantly, the ones that help our fellow journeymen here on this planet, right? Our fellow brothers and sisters right here on this beautiful earth. Thanks so much for joining me this weekend. I really love getting to spend time with you, sharing coffee and sharing stories. I hope you get out there and make your weekend awesome. Take your awesomeness out in the world and bless somebody with it today. You never know the difference you can make in the life of others. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. I'll see you back here next weekend when we're going to talk more and share and learn about publishing children's stories, and how the joy of young readers comes to life through the power of stories. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.